maybe just two quick minutes on what's going on the college campuses. Mm-hmm. Before we talk about some Torah. So, my instinct when. Okay, a couple of things. My heart tells me that this is actually a good thing that's happening on the college campuses. This is as of a few days ago, and it's gotten even more radicalized since a few days ago. And it was already pretty radical a few days ago. And now it's gotten even more radicalized. So why am I thinking this is a good thing when, it seems like they're putting up, Hamas flags where the United States flag goes, and they're shouting so many horrible things about killing Jews and everything like that, and it seems like a lot of it spread to so many college campuses, and there seems to be a lot of people. So every single one of those things seems to be like this is obviously a terrible thing. Like what do you mean? Like your heart tells you it's a good thing. And as it becomes more radicalized, to me, it becomes even better and better. So again, that may not make sense, but my thinking is the following: that the more radicalized it becomes, the more they discredit themselves before all of America. And that I really think that this is happening in a big way right now. And I think that, a lot of people in America, if you think about America as a whole, they might have an opinion about the Middle East. Jews against the Arabs, they probably made up their mind on that issue a long time ago. I can't imagine that this present situation is turning so many people. If it is turning people, it's probably turning more people against Israel and more toward the Arabs. But I think that's probably a smaller percentage of people across the United States. But, here's the big but, when America as a whole sees the U.S. flag come down and the Palestinian flag go up where the U.S. flag was, I think most Americans go, wait a second. These people are not pro-Gaza or pro-suffering Palestinian. These people are pro-terrorism. I think that is the opinion that most average Americans are drawing from this. And in fact, there have even been a few headlines out of Gaza where the Gazans are like, no, don't stop doing this. You are actually discrediting us. So, and then for whatever it's worth, after I shared that opinion with my family, I heard Ben Shapiro, who knows more about these things than I do, say the exact same thing. He said that I'm wishing them all the success in the world. Because, again, the exact same point, that the more they radicalize themselves, the more they discredit themselves before the entire United States.
There was a school where they cleared the encampment, they had all the kids singing the national anthem. So it's creating even a double backlash.
Right, so...
It's creating solidarity for America.
So, yes, and again, I don't know how carefully you're following these things, but on the human interest story level, the most fun headline, I don't know if you've been following this, on I believe it's the University of North Carolina campus, there's a fraternity there. And they blocked the Palestinian flag from going up and made sure that the United States flag stayed up, almost like they were defending a U.S. military base. And someone, wrote this like over the top, almost like humorous, like salute to them on Facebook, saying, and in appreciation for what they've done for America, let's throw these frat boys a rager. And as of yesterday afternoon, or maybe the day before yesterday, they had raised something like $125,000 and now it's close to $500,000.
They're doing a concert for them. The artists are doing a concert for them.
Really? Yeah. And so And then apparently, my wife just told me this. She's following this stuff too, so I believe her. That they tried to do this at Ole Miss. Now I don't know if you know what Ole Miss is, but that's like Mississippi. Like how they thought that in Mississippi, which is like hardcore deep South, that they're going to love seeing a Palestinian flag over the United States flag is. I have no idea what they were thinking, but they got the whole campus singing, God bless America, and, just that it's having the opposite effect. So let's, and then just really something just to the side, the University of Chicago, which apparently was up until, I think, very recently, like, again, to quote Ben Shapiro, because I heard him speak a few times recently, he was saying that that's one of those places that's worth saving and worth fighting for because it hasn't completely turned inside out yet. Anyway, I guess now the more intense encampments there are starting. And they issued, and I can show you this, I can have it posted on the Mishmar thing if you're interested. They listed, the pro-Palestinian people listed a list of needs that they have. And it's a long list of needs just to aid their encampment process, right? One of them was HIV tests. Why? Because what are they going to be doing with each other during this encampment that they're asking for HIV tests? And if that doesn't raise enough suspicion, on the same line, the next item was Plan B pills. If you don't know what those are, that's if you have unprotected intimacy, that you can take that pill, and it's like an abortion pill to make sure that after unprotected intimacy, that there's no conception, that there's no baby made. So they're also asking for HIV tests, Plan B pills. And then a third item that I don't even want to mention, because even though I think most people won't know what it is, you'll look it up, and I just don't want to put the thought in your head. So it's just, I don't know. It's not great. At Columbia University, half of the protesters arrested were not college students. The wife of a convicted Hamas terrorist was photographed at the scene. Another guy at Stanford, the headline was he had a green Hamas band around his head and a black face mask, but his eyes matched the eyes of a soldier taken from Hamas in Gaza. And he's on the Stanford campus. The FBI has warned that just like in the student protests in the 1960s, several of those people were taking over buildings and things like that, turned into domestic terrorists. That we have to be concerned and fear that some of these radicalized people might actually turn to terrorism, that they're being trained to be terrorists within the United States. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is floating a plan that he hasn't announced yet, which is to take people from Gaza and to resettle them in America. And 35 senators told him there is no way to properly vet them for security, to make sure of who we're importing. So that's also going on. So it's really interesting. So if you cut to October or November or December, you remember that these things were escalating. There was a petition that was signed, and then that led to the Senate hearings, the congressional hearings, and that led to the head of Harvard, the president of Harvard and University of Pennsylvania, being booted out of their very, very extremely cushy, prestigious jobs. And I think that it seemed like we reached the apex, the peak of the story of what's going on at college campuses. And it's like God said, just wait. Like God said, l'chaim in the middle, right? You know, like we're not done yet. We're still going, and now there's this fresh round where it seems to have gotten worse and worse, but worse and worse, / better and better, right? So I just want to tell you something from the Gemara, and that is that anytime you see something bad, anytime the Torah warns you about something bad, and what I'm telling you right now is from the Gemara. This is the math of the Gemara, the sages. If God shows you something for bad, that means that there's also something going on for good that's 500 times stronger than the bad thing. That number is from the Gemara. 500 times better for the good. So just like you're seeing things get worse, we're also going to be seeing things get better and better and better and better and better. And that even within the bad, things are happening. Like all I can say is, I was saying this a lot when COVID happened, because the whole world shut down. And I just kept on saying this over and over. God is busting a move. God's busting a move. And I'm telling you, since October 7th, God is busting a move. Like I just saw this on the Jerusalem Post like an hour ago. They've got these really big posters now calling for regime change in Iran. And like the Iranians are looking. And I'll tell you something, the biggest disaster for Iran in like, I don't even know how long, was they're firing all those missiles at Israel. Because they had scared everybody into thinking that they had the killer arsenal. And what they showed was the best of what they had was nothing. It was actually nothing. And now, you know something? They're so scared. They just did something that if you don't see a terrified nation behind this, then you don't know how to read the news. They just, in today's news, they gave CNN, quote unquote, rare access to their arsenal. They showed CNN around showing their latest and greatest weapons. Why did they do that? In an attempt to restore some sort of fear and deterrence, because they realized they completely exposed themselves for having no defenses. You know, just in case you missed it, how did Israel counterattack? Because they needed to counterattack after 300 plus drones, missiles, and rockets came into Israel, and they all got shut down, basically. They all got shot down. And they didn't just get shot down. They got shot down by a new military alliance consisting of Saudi Arabia and Jordan, France, England, and the United States. And of course, Saudi Arabia and Jordan made excuses, but, you know, they shot down Iranian missiles. It's as simple as that. You know what I mean? Like they tried to put a little PR cover on it. But that is a new, viable military alliance that's been tested, and it's there. It exists right now. So yeah, by the way, I mean, that miracle was as great as anything that we've seen since the 6 Day War. And I almost feel like we have to make a formal celebration. Like we have to commemorate it in some way, because I think everyone's so overwhelmed by all of the events that we can't allow that just to be another news item that happened, that came and went. That was much bigger than just another thing. That was a historic protection, like on the biblical level, that God did. Let's do it, really. But we should figure out something, like really like something, you know? So yeah, that was unbelievable. Okay. So I think the whole world after that is thinking, wow, they're not as big as they think, and maybe we can actually overthrow that regime after all. Now it's going to take a lot of people in Iran who are willing to die. Yeah. Like a lot of people are going to die for them to create a revolution there. A lot of people are going to want. And I don't know if that critical mass of the number of people who are going to need to die to overthrow them is there yet. But it's getting there. It's definitely getting there. I feel like my kishkas tell me, and this is just me talking, you know, feel free to, you can take it or leave it. But I feel like we're getting close to regime change over there. I feel it. And can I tell you something? If the Ayatollahs fall in Iran, do you know what that means? Hezbollah goes away in Lebanon. Hamas goes away in Gaza. Literally, the lifeblood goes away. You know, and Syria as well.
Also the Houthi.
And the Houthis as well.
In Iraq and everywhere.
The whole place changes if that happens. The whole place changes. But let me just tell you, just in case you missed it, because this is amazing. Israel had to respond to that attack. Everyone was saying, or a lot of people were saying, attack their nuclear sites. Now Israel, if they had attacked their nuclear sites, then Iran would have come back with another volley of missiles. And then Israel would have had to respond to that volley of missiles. So here was the foreign policy challenge. They had to respond in a way that would show Iran, we can crush you at any moment, without escalating the fight and doing something that demanded a counterattack. So think about it. That's, if you're a policymaker, if you're a general, that's like threading a needle. How do you respond in a way that shows them we can take you out at any moment without it being an act that they have to respond to?
It's not how Hashem
It's very hard to do.
Hashem wipes out.
So how did they do it? Instead of attacking the nuclear sites, which they could have done, if you've been following the news for the last couple of years, 2-3 years, Iran was begging Russia for the S-300 or the S-3000 missile defense system, meaning to say that the highest quality bomber coming in, this high-tech Russian missile defense could shoot down the plane, could shoot down any missile coming, right? And they finally got it. And they put it around their nuclear sites. What did Israel do? They flew in not even into Iranian airspace. That's an important detail. Outside of Iranian airspace, Israel flew in and took out that sophisticated anti-missile defense. And that's it. The one in front of their nuclear site. Do you know what that's the equivalent of? And then they just went home. In other words, they fought. They didn't do anything, and they did absolutely everything. They said, guys, we can take out all of your nuclear facilities anytime we want to, and you are defenseless. It's like, imagine, God forbid, like I thought of an example, just in case it's not clear to you. Imagine, God forbid, there's like the mafia. The mafia is after your family. God forbid. And you've got your guards up. You've got 24-hour security, right? And then you walk in to your child's bedroom, right? The next morning, and the child has a little sign on its chest, the sleeping child, and it says on it, "Bang." They didn't even bother. But what they showed you is at any moment they can do whatever they want. That's what Israel did to Iran. And how does Iran respond 2 weeks later? By giving CNN a rare look at their top new weapons. Right? Like, if that's not right? Right? You know, you have to know something also if you want to be just a sophisticated person, which is, and this is a perfect example of it, which is why I'm telling you on this. A lot of times the news reports the news, and a lot of times governments use news agencies to advance their agendas and use the news agencies to send a message to the people, so that the news agencies feel like they're getting a story and they're reporting, but all they're doing is acting as an intermediary for the government to send a message to a particular group of people. And this is a perfect example of that, right? Like, you think that you think CNN really got a hot story or a hot interview? No. That's absolutely not what was going on there. And by the way, that happens all of the time. A lot of the times you're just reading headlines and it's just a message from the government or a message from the corporation. That's all it is. It's just PR. Sometimes it's news. Sometimes. Okay, so I think let me just give you one piece of Torah. So you know, we were talking about it on Pesach, but I want to add something, which is the Ari says that being taken out of Egypt he gives us like a visual. It's like a calf being delivered from inside the mother's calf and being taken out. And that's like the Jewish people being delivered out of Egypt. Okay, and then we just like a baby gets out of the womb and now it's a person. The Jewish people got out of Egypt and now we're a nation. Okay, that's the parallel. But I had a question on that. Here's my question. It says in the Gemara that when you're in your mother's womb, these are the greatest moments of your life. And if you think about it, all of your needs are taken care of, you're being fed, an angel is teaching you the entire Torah. What could be bad? I mean, it's bliss. That's what the Gemara says. So if the time inside your mother's womb is bliss, how could it be, according to the Ari, that we were like a calf being taken out of its mother's womb? Because we know that our time in Egypt was the worst thing imaginable. So why is it being likened unto what the sages say is the best time imaginable? Do you see how it doesn't sync? It doesn't track. That was my question. And then I thought about it some more, and so here's maybe what I think is going on, which is that when a human being is inside of another human being's womb, that's the greatest time. When an animal is inside its animal mother's womb, that's the best time. When Klal Yisrael is inside of an animal's womb, that's horrific. Because it means that we're being nurtured and fed from an alien source. From a source that isn't us. And that's what we're deriving all of our life force from. This is horrific. And if you think about it in terms of our own lives living in America today, how much of our life force is coming really from our true identity, from Hashem, from Torah and mitzvahs and everything like this, and how much of our life force is being nourished by a culture that is essentially antithetical to what we believe in and alien to our life force. And so on Pesach, we get delivered. We get brought out. And so why did God take us out of Egypt? There's one answer to that question, by the way. Like everything in Torah you can give 1,000 answers to, right? But there really is an official answer to that question. Why? Because God tells us himself in the Torah. Why did God take us out of Egypt? In order to give us the Torah at Mount Sinai. I saw something that I thought was very interesting. Why do we say half Hallel for the last 6 days of Pesach? So there are famous answers that I'm sure you all know. The most famous answer is that the Egyptians also died. So how can we be fully celebrating when God's own creatures also got killed? So that's a beautiful teaching, by the way. So that's what most people know. But I saw this teaching that I thought was really struck by. Do you know why we don't sing full Hallel on the last 6 days of Pesach? Because then we think that just getting out of Egypt was the entirety of the celebration. But it wasn't. We have to wait till we get the Torah at Mount Sinai in order to celebrate the entirety of the celebration. And therefore, we don't say full Hallel. Because if you're free, but you don't know where you're going, you're still a slave. If you're free, but you don't know where you're going, you're still a slave. You're a slave to whichever you feel at the moment. Because you're not connected to that higher thing, which is truly nourishing you. So in other words, when do we get back in the womb, so to speak? When do we get reconnected to what our true life force is? And that's when we get the Torah at Mount Sinai. And that's how we are till this day. And it's our option right now. Where do you want to draw your sustenance from? Right? Listen, by the way, I write for television, for goodness sakes. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm telling you, take your television sets, break them into pieces and flush them down the toilet. I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you that. But what I am telling you is, where are you deriving your nourishment from and your life force from? And if it's from just another sunny day and another great paycheck and another walk on the beach and another, if it's just from that, you're still inside the cow's womb in Egypt. If it's from going to Minyan, if it's from putting on tefillin, it's from learning Torah, it's from getting together and making l'chaims with each other. If it's from farbrengen and dancing, then you're connecting really to your ultimate life force. And that's the continuation of this holiday. A lot of us might feel let down, oh, Pesach is over. Now Pesach is over. Okay, what's the next holiday? Don't think like that. It's not Pesach is over now, okay, in another month and a half, or, Lag BaOmer's coming up in another month, and then we got Shavuos, ahead on the radar. Don't think like that. Right now, it's sort of like you left one thing, but you're being pulled toward another thing. It's all one continuum, right? When a baby is born prematurely, it's got to go into one of those incubators. This period between Pesach and Shavuos, each one of us is a baby in an incubator. It's up to us to provide that nourishment. Okay, l'chaim, guys, l'chaim.